Okay. I'm not good at waiting, sir. I have the victim's ID card right here. I found it at the crime scene. That makes sense. When I say crime scene, I'm not referring to the evidence room at the police department. I mean the other crime scene. The underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. Your Honor, I have one more piece of evidence to present. It's a very important clue regarding the victim's ID card.
Lost item report. It's only half completed.
But it shows that Detective Goodman has lost something on the day of the crime. Something important enough to fill out this report. Let me guess, you believe this something to be his ID card, right? I can't say for sure, but there is a high probability. On the day of the crime, Detective Goodman was not carrying his card.
Order. So now what does this all mean?
It can only mean one thing. It doesn't even require much thought. The man Officer Meekins encountered in the evidence room was not Detective Goodman, but rather the man who stole his ID card.
Order. Does the prosecution have a response?
I have only one thing to say to the defense. Bravo, Mr. Wright. Bravo. Allow me to summarize the defense's argument. At 5:15 on the day of the crime, the man in the evidence room Officer Meekins encountered was not Detective Goodman. There are two grounds to support this. First, the locker in the evidence room was already unlocked. Second, the victim lost his ID card. Am I correct so far, Mr. Wright? Yes. What's he up to? That being the case, we must inevitably arrive at single conclusion. If the victim in this video is a fake, then the murder in the evidence room is also fake. In other words, the security camera does not show the instant of the murder. That is, well, I guess that's right. Is something wrong, Mr. Wright? Only moments ago you seemed content to be pointing your finger around. This isn't going to end well. Well, it seems you finally realized exactly what you've gone to large lengths to prove.
Explain yourself, Mr. Edgeworth.
The defense has already done the explaining for me. The victim in this video is a fake, which means a murder did not take place there. At the police department at 5:15 on the day of the crime. So the real crime could only take place at one location, the underground parking lot. At the prosecutor's office, the murderer being Miss Lana Sky, the defendant. The evidence is compiling. A trustworthy witness observed the moment the defendant used the murder weapon. Ah! I knew that testimony was way too shabby. It was all a trap from the beginning.
The activity in the evidence room still leaves many questions unanswered. Who exactly was the victim Officer Meekins encountered? And where did this person disappear to? However, this trial's purpose is to examine only the murder of Detective Goodman.
Just so, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, you have to do something, or else Lana. What do I do? How am I supposed to get myself out of this? Object, wait and see what happens. Spróbujmy podnieść sprzeciw. One moment, Your Honor. What now, Mr. Wright? Don't tell me you're objecting to what you're just proven. Of course not. But I almost walked right into the prosecution's trap. What are you talking about? This cross-examination has proven one thing and one thing only. The security video did not show the actual murder. However, it cannot be said that it is unrelated to the murder in the parking lot. Specifically, large amounts of blood traces were found in the evidence room. The defense demands further examination into the truth of the matter.
Mr. Ashworth?
Yes, Your Honor?
If this court were to examine this further, other witnesses will be necessary. Is the prosecution prepared?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. The prosecution considered the incident at the police department to be unrelated. We have not prepared any other witnesses for this incident. This just may be my chance. Time to call a certain Texas Ranger to the stand. Mr. Wright, do you mean? Your Honor, the defense would like to request a specific witness.
Whom do you have in mind?
Someone we have reasons to believe knows the truth. The truth behind the activities that took place in the evidence room. The prosecution requests to hear this person's name before deciding whether or not to comply.
Very well then, Mr. Wright. This person whom you would have testified, what is his or her name?
Marshall. Officer Jake Marshall. Why him? I can't let Edgeworth know everything just yet. He's in charge of the evidence room. I feel we should hear what he has to say. The prosecution agrees to the defense's request. Since he was responsible for guarding the room, we should hear his testimony. Fortunately, he works in the police department. We shouldn't need longer than 20 minutes to prepare.
Very well. The court will take a 30-minute recess while the witness is
Suspended. Cokolwiek to znaczy.
Will the prosecution please prepare the witness during this time?
We will, Your Honor.
Court is now in recess.
Okay. There's no stopping you, is there, Mr. Wright? Huh? What do you mean? You care for Jake Marshall. It seems you figured everything out. I haven't figured anything out. Lana, you're the one who knows everything. Emma, you always know everything. Why don't you just tell us? Mr. Wright is trying his hardest to protect you. I don't recall even asking for his protection. How can you be so cold? Don't you trust us? Don't you trust me?
Oh, I'm not interrupting anything, Pauls. Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later.
Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it?
You've got a lot of nerve, Paul, making a detective run all around while on duty. And to top of it, you call me here. I've seen happier people at the funerals.
Sorry, Detective.
You better be, Paul. Hey,
Hey, I didn't see you there, Chief Prosecutor Sky.
That's okay, so have you brought what I asked?
You mean this, right?
My apologies, Detective. Due to my present circumstances, I was forced to use Mr. Wright's name when making my request.
My name?
Never in a million years would I have thought it was you who asked me. Could I bother you to bring me the SL9 incident files? I'll need them by noon. Talk about crazy.
The SL9 incident?
But Lana, that's... I thought Mr. Wright might need them, so I had them brought there. Here, you might do well to read them.
I can't believe you, the chief prosecutor, were a witness in that case.
Miss Sky was a witness. Files from the Joe Drake killings, solved 2 years ago.
Take it from me, you don't want anything to do with serial murders. Oh, what? Now that I've brought you your stuff, you're gonna just ignore me?
Emma, but why... Why is your name here? What? My name is in there? I don't know, unless... No, it couldn't be. Lana, this SL9 incident, is that...
That's the classification number the police filled it under. 2 years ago, the rest of the world knew it as the Joe Drake killings.
The Joe Drake... No, Lana.
It's over with. No!
Emma, wait! She ran away.
You know what? I just remember I gotta be somewhere. Sorry, Paul, I'm out of here.
Jake Marshall, Angel Stało, Demon Gant, Miles Edgeworth. Same znajome imiona. Not to mention Lena and Emma. Everyone involved in this case is connected to those killings in 2 years ago. This can't be just a coincidence.
Knowing you just might be able to figure it out. Time to get back to the trial. Mr. Wright, best of luck.
I better take a good look at this file. To be continued. Oczywiście, że chcę zapisać grę. Chcę też wyciągnąć kolejną porcję ambrozji. Nie, teraz otwierasz do konserw. Teraz otwierasz do butelek. No, teraz jesteśmy sami, co?
The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Sky.
Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Pijesz w trakcie... Przesłuchania, nieźle. Witness, please state your name and occupation.
Ghoul? Me, partner? Oh, I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trails of civilization.
Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersection when needed. Yes, we get it.
Oh, I know, you're a punctual man. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the holy wind calling it.
To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? I've never heard anyone describing that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime took place. Is this correct?
According to the papers, partner.
What do you mean?
A desperado's soul is as bondless as the desert stands. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share us with your testimony on the day of the crime. In plain old English.
Day of the crime.
My job was to keep a wary eye on the bomb orchard. They say I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at a street-side saloon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo each time I hit the trail. I can say I particularly care for your attitude. I can say I care for your bird, but you don't see me complaining.
Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems?
I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those.
Yes, well, what about the fingerprint activated locks on the evidence locker?
Fingerprint activated locks? What kind of newfangled dookie keys are those?
He's not being very helpful. He's not that good with machines or with following orders.
Everyone got their weaknesses, now don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, here's all yours.
How exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room?
I just made something moved in the security camera monitor. I just made sure nothing moved in the security camera monitor, that's room so still. Every time dies in there, I was just a caretaker who interred the recordings.
You interread them?
Videos of nothing are that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape.
If nothing unusual is recorded, tapes are to be erased every 6 hours.
Each time I erased the tape, I felt like I was erasing a part of my life.
This guy has a flair for a dramatic, but it isn't going to do him any good. So actually, you don't physically enter the evidence room. But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right?
And you heard a word I said, partner. I told you that ain't my style.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
No desperado. I know let's rules get in his way.
No desperados, I know, join the police force.
So, Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime...
Oh, yes. Przepraszam.
Just between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day. There was a rubber glove struck in the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, partner. I can say I do. I haven't been in that crypt in weeks.
How does this guy avoid being fired? Besides, the room is protected by two security system anyway. You used to be a detective, so you've used the evidence room in the past, correct?
Of course, back in my day, locker was a gold mine of evidence.
And yet, you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism?
Sorry, partner, I ain't good with machines. I couldn't even tell you how a buy works.
That's quite incredible. The sensors on the locker's handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. And now that he mentions it, some Detective Gumshoe said something like that too.
Other than Wright, it doesn't seem that this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place?
If I remember right, I was at the street side saloon. What were you doing in a place like that?
I was eating spaghetti. Not even Angel Star's lunches can beat that Paro's Rangos Peppia pasta. Do you mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles?
Not all desperados eat tacos, partner.
That's not what I mean. I hope this has at least taught you a lesson.
That's strange. This is unusual. This is usually where Edgeworth says, "Did you not want to rise this year?" I'm just innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. Out of ammo, Officer Marshall?
That's right, partner, or as you'd call it, evidence. If you plan to point me to this crime, then you better draw. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time. My steel horse is waiting to carry me back west into the sunset. One thing seems clear. Despite being responsible for guarding the evidence room, the witness doesn't appear to have seen anything. Texas don't take orders from anyone. Everyone knows that.
Apparently your superiors don't. Okay, I have a trap card up my sleeve, so I'd best keep my cool. Before I use it though, I'd better up the ante. Mamy jego odcisk palca, prawda? Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd that is you being called in to testify like this? After all, you were in the security room at the time of the crime.
And yet you dropped me down here. Explain yourself, partner.
It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint.
Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respect, that is, make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there.
I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood.
Witness, what's the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene.
The blood was wiped away, however. A luminoil test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall?
It seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders.
I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshal, about the blood-stained fingerprints?
Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints. And found at the scene of the crime.
Blood-stained fingerprints.
Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by a chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprints are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See, I had nothing to do with it. The witness explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt. My life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner. The defense may now cross-examine the witness.
This guy's hiding something, I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. That's because you, how did you put it, pay your respects once a month.
Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. That locker happened to be mine. What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now, though, is a heap of broken dreams.
I see.
It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker.
Apparently his fingerprint data was never removed from the locker's programming. He must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without even knowing it. So then, what about the bloody handprint?
Wasn't mine. It's no mystery. Please explain. My locker is covered with my fingerprints. It just so happened.
The murderer touched the locker. The chances of that happening are 1 in a million.
On the contrary, one could argue just the opposite. The chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward for me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why?
The bloodstain and the fingerprints are completely unrelated. Unrelated?
They're as different as a night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's got to do with breakfast, while the other's a type of murder. He's right, although seemingly alike they're totally different.
I don't see what hominos have to do with this. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? How do you know that?
I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports.
There was a blood stain at the scene, though to be left by the murderer. Thought. That's right. It was on the Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Yeah, I think we tried that too.
So what that would mean? The murderer wearing gloves happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprints. That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner?
The picture?
The sea of blood in the desert is just food for the buzzard. There's only one reality, and that's this.
The security type.
So long as my trial isn't in there, you can't say otherwise. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall.
Too bad it wasn't me in that video, right, partner? What do you mean by that?
You want me to tie me? You want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have.
But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots.
Blind spots?
Places you can see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright.
Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now.
Znalazłem to już wcześniej. Na początku z szafki marszała nie wystaje nic, a na sam koniec wystaje coś z jego szafki. Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake.
Now then, let's have another look at the video. Show us this incriminating evidence of the witness, Officer J. Marshall.
Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall.
The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less?
Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. 8 słów.
Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner.
The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video.
That locker with the one cloth stick out. That was the witness, I believe.
Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. Rewind.
Ah, the white cloth it's gone. What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall?
When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then, it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away.
Order, order. It would seem that...
Hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man.
So what if my locker was opened? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it.
Edgeworth już wie. A on nie wie o czytniku linii papilarnych, więc sam się wkopał.
The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened a locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man?
This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker.
Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say I opened the locker, now prove it.
Skoro nie jego fingerprint, to co? Only the assigned detective's prints can unlock it. Indicator lamps light.
Fingerprint sensor.
We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to.
What kind of crazy talk is this?
Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this.
In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There are even some people on the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks.
So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less?
I only got one word for you, Balder. No! Order. Witness, explain yourself. If this is a joke, it's the worst I've ever had.
Of course, I assure you this isn't the joke, Mr. Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime.
Ole, please answer the question.
Ole. What is he now, a bullfighter? That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure the rest out from here.
We can?
Have a look at the floor plans. There is no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Mickens didn't see Officer Marshall.
If that's so, then where was the witness?
It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right, the only possible conclusion.
Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime?
Oczywiście, że był... tym, który się podszywał za Goodmana. Officer Marshall was standing right here.
There, but that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was.
Correct, unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you, dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Mickens witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Mickens did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his cards. Oh. Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond? He suddenly pulled a knife on me. Something about the sheriff's story puzzled me. On też cały czas ma nóż, którym podcina sobie brodę. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it?
Yes, he would have indeed. Yes, he would needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it.
The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card.
Oh, I get it.
If he'd shown that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall?
You've got quite an imagination, partner. You've got a term for that is called circumstantial evidence.
Circumstantial evidence. He's still denying it.
You're gonna have to do better than talk to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I have dressed up as a victim. I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I can't say I care for your bear, but you don't seem me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as a victim?
Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that.
I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat.
This can't be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics? For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise. But rather, I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was open in the first place?
What do you mean?
There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker.
According to the defense's argument, Officer J. Marshall dressed up as a Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason.
The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside.
So, just what exactly is this piece of cloth?
Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot.
Very well, let's take yet another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open his locker.
Ponieważ był zabrudzony krwią? To jest jedyne wyjaśnienie, jakie ja stąd potrafię wywnioskować. For some reason you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman and enter the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife of him. However, Officer Mickens panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood.
A bloody white coat.
You couldn't just walk out like that. So you hid the coat in your locker.
Not bad, partner.
Przyznał się.
Now then, Officer Marshall. Are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent than you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now, would we?
Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it.
Alright. It seems the time has come.
Marshall's confession.
I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Mickens and I knocked him out. And managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. So the supposed victim was really you.
But there's one thing I still don't understand. The traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If none was murdered, then how could that be?
Officer Mickens managed to hurt his own hand. My guess is he's the donor.
It was way too much blood for such a small donation. When you say it, you mean...
Do you even have to ask, partner?
The S09 incident. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transfer of that day.
Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over.
But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room?
When a case is closed, only that case lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. The case is mine.
But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? No, zobaczmy. Incydent numer SL9. Perpetrator Jake Drake. Crime, serial murder, sentence death. Victims Edward Jones, Jason Knight, Edith Kirby, Rachel Moss, Jeb Bates, Neil Marshall. Neil Marshall! Czyżby ktoś z jego rodziny zginął? Head Prosecutor Miles Edward, Witness Lana Sky i Emma Sky. Investigation Task Force, Executive Investigation Damon Gaunt, Lana Sky. Head Investigator Bruce Goodman, Investigator Jake Marshall, Inger Star.
That day was my last chance, that's why I
stole the detective's ID. Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman?
If I didn't make it look like the Goodman was carrying out the evidence transfer, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence which wouldn't get me anywhere.
So you did it to fool the security camera.
And the detective's ID cards? I stole it the morning of the incident.
So that was really why Goodman started filling out that lost item report.
I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot.
The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight.
What do you mean, partner?
I mean the fingerprint activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that lock yourself. But he could, because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must open the locker before Officer Marshall. You pulled the knife on Officer Mickens and tried to drive him off.
Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Mickens certainly is one in a million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID.
I'll have to think a little more about his race this year. When did Edgeworth get so much influence?
Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way. With me knocking him out and everything.
By the way, what happened to your knife?
Oh, you mean this one?
I don't know what to say.
Huh? So you knock out Officer Mickens out and...
Managed to escape. So you did your research beforehand.
Those who get into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone and planned, no footage would have been left.
However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Mickens.
If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there.
What was Officer Mickens doing during that time?
What else? He was sleeping like a baby. So what you are saying is, on that day...
There wasn't any murder in the evidence room. But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place.
What, are you blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner.
So you stole the evidence from the locker?
Actually, no, I didn't.
Why not?
When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence?
It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing?
Fire away, partner, is a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer.
Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer. This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are even a valid solution.
Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more.
Jesus.
I can't just forget the SL9 incident. You know why?
But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it?
That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room.
Joe Drake was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence.
I remember the Joe Drake case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't indeed to complain about how it turned out. But there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no other will talk about. No one. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out.
Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think his real reason is? I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. I'd better take another look at the files. Już to chyba rozgryzłem. Jego żona, albo ojciec, albo ktoś z jego rodziny został zabity przez tego Joe Drake'a. Neil Marshall. Nie brzmi jak imię kobiece, więc pewnie ojciec. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about SL9 incident.
Sounds like you've been snipping too much cactus juice, pardon?
I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. In a list of murdered victims. Neil Marshall, are you related to this man? Neil Marshall.
Yeah, I'm sure you heard this name. 2 years ago. You received the same lousy prosecutor award you got.
What?
What? A prosecutor?
He must have been talking about the King of Prosecutors Award. Now I remember, Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did.
That's right, he was killed. And the case fell into your hands. But what his relations to you? He was my brother. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gaunt, the then deputy chief of police.
A, czyli on jest tym czwartym, który jest na tej retrospekcji.
The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Drake. My brother fought Drake and was killed. That was the first time Drake left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arranged and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Drake. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight.
And that is... what's your reason for your insane actions?
There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime.
That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happened by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's got to be more than just that.
So, if no murder was if no one was murdered at the police department the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking was the real one.
Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Sky. By the way, the verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department.
It seems to me this boy got the draw on you, partner.
All of the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Sky. And the testimony of one Miss Angel Star is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. I rest my case.
It seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt.
Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder to the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera's tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty.
Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant...
Objection! Hold it. Oh.
Your Honor, wait.
Emma.
The defense has an objection, a scientific objection. Right?
What do you mean, right?
Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian?
Your Honor, you see...
Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please.
I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3.
I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the Estonian incident referred to the Joe killings.
Now that she mentioned it, the name of both Sky sisters were in that file.
But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing, the other handprint.
You mean the traces of blood found on the detective's gumshoe locker?
But no fingerprint were found on it, right?
No, but I figured if I examine it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again.
So did you find something?
No.
Huh?
Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all.
Is that all?
Please don't be mad, I'm just a high school student.
And I'm just an attorney.
But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can find something wrong with them, please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you.
Me? Oh boy.
Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident, the police department does any reasonable doubt remains.
It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this?
Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be...
Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day.
Yes, Your Honor. If ever I've needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with that handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? I object, of course. This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright.
You've been staring pretty intensely at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them?
Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that when drawn will completely change the meaning of the blood mark. Blue Badger.
Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright.
With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use.
The question is, which item can prove something is missing on the floor plans?
Blue Badger.
What about that piece of plywood?
The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force. Defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well,
What?
That's right, so long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it would have been impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker.
What? So it means, just exactly what does that mean?
It means it can't be done.
What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on the locker.
Don't look at me, I don't put the strings.
Mr. Wright, bring it through scientifically.
Emma.
On that afternoon, Officer Mickens was the one who brought the Blue Badger to the evidence, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker.
So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in?
Just one moment, I will not allow such fetch blubberwash in my courtroom.
It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape taken by the security camera. Officer Mickens cut his hand, from which a trial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time, someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape, it had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did that first incident occur?
To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Dickens being caught by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room.
That's right, the blood mark on the locker proves this.
Very well, then tell us, when did that first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented.
Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that.
Now then, will the defense please present its evidence?
Wydaje mi się, że chodzi o tą listę osób, które wchodziły do tego pomieszczenia z dowodami.
What shows when the first time crime took place?
If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required.
An ID card? Oh, the ID card record.
Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see,
4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:20 p.m. Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done? I never would have figured you had done that, boy.
Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me.
No, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either.
It's clear from a luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible.
That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room.
Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining, 77777777.
Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room?
Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went with 77777777.
Mr. Edgeworth, please look at this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 777777777777.
That's 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least at present. What?
Explain yourself, son.
The ID number 77777777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous, just how... I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority.
If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted.
An official charge?
You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates.
I take pride in my work, Officer Marshal. I would appreciate if you would keep your slander to yourself.
Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question.
Yes?
No, not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive.
Lana. Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked up her ID number. And it's not 7777777.
Don't play me for a fool, Paula. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing. About that incident. Do you also know an incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence?
Do you need the witness to repeat the question, Chief Prosecutor?
I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth.
2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time,
Occasionally, we felt the prowess of the law. At least I did.
Lana,
I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law.
Defendant, well, just what are you saying?
what? Zamieniacie się miejscami teraz?
I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look at me, investigator, in that crime, in the eye and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't.
I don't have to, Officer Marshal.
Why won't you answer him?
Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to do, in order to him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana, even if it involved forging evidence,
See? That's what I'm talking about.
No. No! Order! 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 Lana's remarks caused such a stir, the chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day. To be continued. Tak chcę zapisać i skończyć ten odcinek. Wyszło 20 minut za długo, trudno. Widzimy się następnym razem. Na razie.